This morning as well. You already saw that spike coming in, and I mean that's a 1-month chart. But if you pull up yesterday's intraday chart, you'll see that dramatic lift-off really in afternoon trade, and that was because clarity came in that the Supreme Court will be reviewing its own order in Vodafone and increasing the ambit of relief that the government can give Vodafone Idea. But is the government going to give that relief? So here's the NDTV Profit exclusive that you should not miss this morning. The government may step in once again to keep Vodafone Idea running. Relief measures are on the table with the aim of sustaining operations rather than clearing all dues. This distinction is important because the impression the street seems to have is that with the waving of a wand, all of Vodafone Idea's problems have gone away. Shimi Chaudhary joining in for those exclusive details.
Well, while government is assessing the modified order by the Apex Court, the talks in the policy corridor gain momentum on extending the necessary relief to Vodafone Idea to ensure that the company continued its business operation. In fact, according to top sources, the support and work is aiming to help VI navigate its immediate financial crisis and sustain its services rather than clearing the entire debt or dues. In fact, sources indicate that DOT, the Department of Telecommunication, to give a detailed proposal to PMO in line with the recent Supreme Court order that could perhaps underline the scope of relief, outline the process of reassessment of the AGR dues, and even determine the quantum of support that may be extended to the struggling telecom operator. In fact, sources also indicate that any sort of relief and aid will likely to have a calibrated approach designed to ensure that VI operational continuity without setting a precedent for blanket bailouts. In fact, the final decision on the nature and the extent of the aid will hinge on the DOT recommendation and the subsequent approval from the top office. But for now, government officials are saying that they acknowledge the fact that VI circumstances are unique, special, and are different from the other telecom players which are grappling with the same AGR issue, given the government majority stake in the company. Besides, the company financial distress, coupled with its pivotal role maintaining the competition in the telecom market, has prompted nuanced approach from the policymaker. Sources also kind of underlining the fact that Centre is not in the favor of duopoly in the telecom sector and is therefore keen to ensure that VI remains operational. Supreme Court recent order has provided much needed clarity on the AGR dues. That's what government official hinting, saying that it's paving the way for government to reevaluate the stance and potentially resolve the long pending issue that has constrained the VI financial recovery matter.
You know, I wonder if this also paves the way perhaps for a new suitor to come in. Balaji Subramaniam, Vice President Research at IIFL Capital Services, joining us this morning to talk all things telecom. And yes, we'll also speak about the Bharti numbers, but let me start with Vodafone and your take on what we're hearing the Supreme Court has said. Shimi Chaudhary, our Delhi Bureau Chief, has just reported that the government is mulling relief options, but they're going to be measured. Does this mean that you could finally have that revival for Vodafone that the street has been penciling in?
Morning. Thanks for having me on the show. So Supreme Court's clarification yesterday that the government has the flexibility to reassess the AGR dues, which is not just the additional AGR demand that was put up recently, but also, the court clarified that the reassessment will also be applicable to the overall AGR dues. Now, this effectively means that the government has got flexibility in terms of any timeline extension of the AGR dues, and most importantly, even the net present value of the AGR liabilities. So if you recollect, about 3/4 of the AGR liability pertain to interest penalty and interest on penalty. So one scenario could be that the government waives the interest penalty and interest on penalty part. So that means we are looking at almost a potential relief of over 60,000 crores for Vodafone Idea in PV terms. So that is almost 30% of their total debt. And now, there were also some media reports yesterday that said that a private equity investor, a US-based private equity investor, is looking to invest fresh equity in Voda Idea. So that article was talking about a $4 to $6 billion number. assuming for a moment that it comes through, of course, there are multiple hoops that need to be jumped through before one reaches there, because obviously a lot of it will also be contingent on what is the exact relief that the government comes up with. But assuming that that comes through, the good thing will also be that the government stake in the company will fall to something like 33-34%.
How does that
And there is
math work,
also,
Balaji? Or you're talking about if there is an infusion?
if there is an infusion.
Okay.
There has to be an infusion, because otherwise, if you are going to just buy out the existing shareholders, then the money is not going to go into the company.